Okay, so I saw your second video. It was long, so I took some notes. If you see me looking at that, that's what I'm doing. So, to weigh or not to weigh, that is the question. Um, I've talked about this before. I don't agree at all. I don't think that, well, I don't agree with the, please, give me some space. Space! I don't agree with weighing, all the time, and I certainly don't think that it's necessary to weigh regularly at all to keep track of what you're doing. Um, it's old school, you know. It's old school to me. That's how I feel. And for me, because and everything that I'm saying is coming from me trying to lose weight in different kind of ways and having a job that was very physical and preparing to get that job. So having to get it, you know, lose some weight even to qualify to be in it, and then obviously being in it and having times where you're more physical than others, and then having times where I had an injury and then I couldn't be physical, and what happened there with, you know, my weight, and also observing everybody else that was doing the same things, men, women, old, middle-aged, young, all of that, different body types, different heights, different metabolisms, and coming out of that and then being a completely different person and having a completely different lifestyle and witnessing other people, witnessing my family and friends and all of that, and just basically, and then of course working in another field where I'm working with people's bodies and all that kind of stuff. So all of this is coming from 10 years of dealing with this, working with this, and of course obviously my own body, as well as everyone else around me who's doing the same stuff. And so I've seen what works and I've seen what doesn't work, and different things work for different people. But let me get to my notes here so I can have more like structure in what the heck I'm saying. I personally don't weigh myself. Why? I don't have a scale. That's the first reason. Second reason is because the scales that you buy, usually they're not necessarily calibrated correctly. And for that matter, sometimes the scales at your local gyms and all of that aren't calibrated correctly. I know because I've had to calibrate them, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's not even zero. So then I get my keys and I try like moving the thing, and can you please get out of there? And so that's another reason why. So like I was curious to how much I weighed probably in the spring, because my lifestyle was changing ever so slightly, and so I was like, I want to know, because I had tried on some things that I hadn't tried on in years, and they were fitting. So I was like, I wonder how much. So I went ahead and went to a store that sells scales, and they have like 50 scales there, and I got out a whole bunch of them, and so of course every single one is different, even though they're all zeroed, right? So I just had an idea of where I was, because the numbers are close, but they're not exactly the same. They're off by like a pound or two or half a pound or whatever. So so I did that then. You know, it really is out of pure curiosity usually. Now, I will say that I do agree with, if you're going to do something, change your lifestyle, change your eating, or change your exercising habits, of course, I would say to weigh yourself and take your measurements and get your body fat, all three, to have a marker of where you began and to let yourself know how far you've come once you have made progress. And I already had that, because in early 2010, I had decided that I wanted to be more physical. You know, I wanted to get out of this whole just going to school and a lot of sitting and all that kind of stuff. And that was really my intention with changing my job and getting out of working in the office, because I was already sitting so much at school. And I like jobs where you're not sedentary. You know, it's just not for me. So I thought I was going to be more physical in this job, but then things kind of like didn't pan out with that job. So I became just a full-time student and all that kind of thing. So I wasn't being physical and blah 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 blah. So the weight crept up, and I was like, well, I just don't think that I'll be able to do this until after I finish like the big chunk of heavy courses I was going to be taking. Then, you know, when my schedule lightens up, I'll be able to exercise and all that kind of stuff and eat better and all that. Well, you know the story how that goes. So I got a personal trainer and I started hanging out at the gym and all that kind of stuff, and I saw results, but the results were only to a point. They were, your body gets stronger, you see progress because you do the same exercises and you're like, oh, I couldn't do this before and I can do it now, and so I'm getting stronger and that's great and blah blah blah. But your body doesn't really change all that much because you don't have your diet together. Your body fat's not going to go down unless you're going to be doing a lot of cardio to get it down. So you built all this muscle and you built this strength, but you can't really see it. You can't see that tone, that definition. You know, those lines right here that, or even on the thigh that, you know, some of us like to have. So you really need to have your diet together, and this year I learned that. So the reason I brought up the personal training and all that story was to say that when I did that, they gave me an assessment, and in the assessment, body fat was part of it, and obviously weighing in was part of it. And by the way, I guess this is where I should add in that I don't have a fear of scales. Like I said, I've been working this, you know, like in fitness and fitness-related things for 10 years already now. Like, I feel old saying that. No, I don't. I really don't. So usually I'm able to guess. You know, I'm able to guess pretty accurately what my weight is and even what my body fat is. So I kind of already knew. And before he said the results, I said, oh, is it this number? And I guessed within 0.3%. So I'm pretty intuitive that way. Like I can look and tell for most people, and certainly for myself. But it was nice to have someone else actually do the work and analyze it, and so now I have it there to look back on, and so now I can see how far I've come. Sometimes it's hard to really perceive how far you've come because you see yourself every day and you don't really realize. And if I didn't have those old clothes that I decided to try on to see if I should give it away or not, I wouldn't really know that I had gone down that far. You know? So, yeah, that's a great thing to do in the beginning. Weighing yourself every day, I've always told you I don't agree with that. And I always told you that I didn't think that you should do it because, first of all, scales, those at-home scales are not that great. You know, they kind of fluctuate a little bit, first off. Second off, they give you an idea. It's not really that precise. And doing it every day is ridiculous because your weight's not going to change that much every day. First off. Second off, it may not even change that much over 2 weeks. So I wouldn't even say to do it once a week. And I understand some people, they don't know how else to measure it, so that's what they do. But I've always advised, take your measurements. That'll tell you where you're at very accurately, and you'll know exactly where you're losing it from, and you'll know exactly how much. So that's something that I've kind of always done. It's not like I sit there and do it every week, though. Like, I do it, and then, like, once I've made a lot of progress, and I'm like, oh, I wonder, you know, like, I'm curious again. And then I'll go ahead and I'll measure myself again, and then I'll just compare the numbers. But it's not something I do religiously. Really, I just go by, like, how I'm looking, because the mirror does not lie. Although I do have a mirror over there that lies beautifully. Everyone who looks in that mirror is like, oh my gosh, I look so good, I look so skinny. I don't know what it is. I don't even know where I got that mirror. But the mirror will tell you. Get naked in front of your mirror. You will see how you look. Take a picture of yourself. Erase it afterwards if you don't like it. But I'm saying, that doesn't lie. That's always dead on. That doesn't need to be calibrated like a scale. Take a picture of yourself in your panties and bra, okay? Like, you don't need to have a scale. So, that's what I do. I take pictures, I look at myself, and I definitely notice the changes in your clothes. Because what is it all about? Looking better in your clothes and looking better naked. Who freaking cares what that scale says? I can tell you that I've been 130 at different points in my life, and my body has looked completely different at 130 way back when, at 130 a few years ago, at 130 now. My body does not look the same. So why is that? Well, obviously because the more you're working out, then the more muscle tone you have. What kind of working out? Before you were doing weight training and running, okay, so at 130 your body's going to look one way and you were eating a certain way, So your body fat's at a certain percentage, your muscle mass is at a certain percentage, you're going to be looking different. It's going to be expressed in your body differently than another time you were eating way better, lower, you were eating lots of fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, and not eating so much fat and white flour and all those kinds of things. And say you were doing, I don't know, a bunch of ice skating, or you were doing Pilates. That's going to develop your body a lot differently and show in your body a lot differently than lifting weights and doing other kinds of exercise. I say that because I've done all these different kinds, and so the scale doesn't tell you the whole story. That's why I don't think that people should get hung up on it, and that's why I suggest people who get upset about what the scale says, like, you can't get hung up on that. It's not worth it. And the other story I've always told is, like, well, it was me and 2 other people, and we all weighed, at the time, this was a very long time ago, 150 pounds. I looked a little soft and round. The other person, who's 1 inch taller than me, same, whatever, looked same thing, a little soft, a little round, but I looked rounder than her because I was younger, and I carried the weight a little bit differently. The third person, you would have looked at this person and thought they were 120 pounds, and the doctor who worked in the office guessed their weight at about 120 pounds, but they weren't. They were 150. Why? Because they stood in the gym, and they lifted weights, and they did all this stuff, and they were eating a certain way, and so they were very toned and very muscular. This person could have been on the cover of, not Self, but like a Muscle and Fitness RX or Muscle and Fitness Hers, and those kind of things. She was very, very toned up and loved to exercise, and that stemmed from being really overweight at one time because of an accident that she had where I think she was bedridden for a while. So when she finally got healthy again, she really got healthy, and she, enjoyed to work out all the time. So you can be 150 and look completely different from body to body, or even within your own body. So the scale doesn't tell the whole story, and that's what people fail to understand. I do weigh myself at the Pilates studio now because I'm there all the time, and I've weighed myself. I've been going there for 8 weeks now, and or is it 7 weeks? This is the beginning of the 7th week, I think, and I've weighed myself 3 times. It's not an obsessive thing. I'm just like curious and I did that. Why? Because I noticed in the mirror that I was a little different, and I noticed that I tried something on that was a small size at the store, and I was like, I think I lost, a couple more pounds. So that's why I checked it. But I don't harp on it. I don't. It doesn't tell you hardly anything. So let's see, what else did I put here? Eating is the most important thing. Eating will, if you change your diet to where it's a lifestyle and you know what you're doing, you're not just, I'm eating healthy, I eat soy burgers and vegetarian burgers. If you really know about nutrition, if you're eating mostly fruits and vegetables, if you know how to cook your foods and all that stuff that I put on the website and all that, that weight will fall off. And I say that not only because it's happened to me, but it's happened to several of other people that I've shared the way I eat with them, and even within my parents. Now, my parents are old. No, they're not old, but they're old. They're much older than me. They were not exercising. Neither was I at the time. And we stood together for 6 weeks, eating the same kinds of foods. And they were, so what I mean by mentioning that they're old is that their metabolism is not high. They're not naturally, like, they're not the kind of people that can just eat and stay thin. And I've witnessed with my own eyes that very quickly the weight starts to drop off, and it starts to drop off in particular from the abdominal area. So one without the other, fitness, as far as working out and all that kind of stuff, without changing how you're eating, will get you so far. Flip it the other way, it'll get you so far. You kind of need to have all of it. But in my personal opinion, and what I've observed, is that eating correctly will have a lot of that excess weight come right off, and from the dangerous fat that you don't want to have around no matter what. And then now I'm incorporating exercise because, like I said, I'm always at the Pilates studio. So now I'm starting to tone, and I'm starting to lean out, and I'm starting to see the development of the muscles and all that kind of stuff. Why am I able to see it? Because now my body fat's lower, so I don't have a layer of fat that's covering it. A lot of people work out a lot and they're like, oh, but I don't see the results. I can't see anything there. Well, you have a lot of fat over it. So if you can decrease the body fat, your overall body fat percentage, you'll be able to see all that work that you've been doing. So now that I'm getting lower and lower, I can start to see that all that work that I've been doing. So that's a nice thing. That's my opinion about that. What else do I have to say? Oh, and it's a slow process. I know you feel like you've plateaued, but all this weight that I've lost and how much my body has changed, that didn't happen over 3 months, and it didn't happen over 6 months, and it didn't happen over 8 months. So that's why I really wanted you to focus on the diet. That initial, like, whoa, crazy a schedule for exercising was just an initial thing. That was not meant for you to live your life like that. You're supposed to taper off and then continue with the eating. And it was meant to be like a boost. You're not going to continue to drop weight at that rate for a whole year or for 6 months. If you had been morbidly obese, that would have been different. You would be dropping weight a lot, but you didn't have really that much weight to lose. You didn't have 70 pounds to lose, 160 pounds to lose. You're not going to be dropping weight at that rate for a continuous amount of time. You have to remember that. I mean, I started at around creeping up at 160 in the beginning of, okay, so we're at 2012. Was it the beginning of 10 or the beginning of 2011? It was the beginning of 2011 that I did that body fat thing. And so in May, I learned crazy nutrition stuff. That's when I made the decision to change my diet. That's when I started changing everything. So now, let's see, we just passed May, June, July, August. So it's been 12, 13, 14, it's been 15 months for me to get here. For me to lose this 30 pounds. 15 months for 30 pounds. You've already lost half of what I lost, and it hasn't been half of that 15 months. So you really need to put it in perspective. You need to think about what I said. It's a slow process. And if it's a slow process, that's good, because that means that your chances of keeping that weight off is much higher than had you just, bam, dropped it all by, doing something really crazy. So you should have more confidence in what you're doing. Stay motivated. Don't get depressed or down by, looking at and seeing that you're at the same weight for a month. That's fine. Had that been in the beginning, that'd be a different story. But you've lost a lot now, and so now you have to just continue with what you're doing, and you'll see the difference. What else did I wanted to say? Measurements are the most important. I think I hit that already. Keep on track. Losing fat, yeah. Gaining muscle, it's different. I'm not afraid of the scale at all. I already said that. Yeah, that's it. So those are my feelings on it. I think that people need to calm down about the scale. Take a look at how they look and feel in their clothes. Be aware that some companies make the sizes smaller so that people feel better and they buy more clothes. Go back to your really old clothes. That'll really tell you where you're at. Go to things that don't have stretch in it. That'll really tell you where you're at. Look in the mirror naked. Take your measurements. Weigh yourself once. Get your body fat done once. And then learn as much as you can about nutrition. Once you do that, and you look at what vegans are eating, look at what vegetarians are eating. I'm not saying to become those things, but start to research, what's behind that. Learn as much as you can, because the more you learn, the more you can incorporate into your own diet, and be open to eating new things, like quinoa, which I'm making right now. Be open, and forget this thing of cheating. Just, like, if you really want something, you've been thinking about it for a while, eat it. But try to eat the best you can in your home every day. So when you go out or you go to someone else's home, you can eat whatever the heck you want. Don't touch that. And what else I was going to say? Oh, and then, if you do it well, as far as like cooking the food and all that stuff, you won't even really want the other stuff. Like, I went to Chipotle the other day because I've been studying for finals or whatever, and so we study, like, I go to class at 1 after being from the Pilates studio, stay there till 5:30, because that's the class until 5:30, and then we'll go somewhere and we'll study till 9 or 10 at night. So it's like, you gotta eat somewhere in there, it's been like 10 hours. So Chipotle was right there. We went there yesterday, and I really didn't care to have any of the meat. And I know that the meat is it's from a good source, so I don't have a problem eating it because I know it's like they make an effort to do that at Chipotle. But I really didn't care for it, and I had my burrito bowl, and I was fine with what I chose. So it's like whatever, you can take or leave that stuff. And there you go. Like now that I've come that far, it's helping me to lose even more weight and even more weight, and it just adds up. So don't ever be discouraged just because you lost 15 pounds. When did you start? You started like the second week of January. February, March, April, May, June, July. It's been 6 months and you lost half of what I lost in 15. I mean, does that put it in perspective for you? That's how I feel about it. I think that you're fine. And I think that the 90-day challenge is a great thing, but the 90-day challenge is going to end one day. And who knows if you'll be able to maintain that exercise schedule that you'll be doing there. Take advantage of all of it, I say. You know, catapult yourself as far as you can with all of this, the initial free stuff and all that stuff too. And I love Lifetime. It's good to be a member of Lifetime because you want to go there. So that's good. And swimming is really, really good. Whole body workout. That's awesome. But don't let go of learning about nutrition. Learn more and more and more because then you'll discover that there's things that you didn't realize before and you'll be able to make adjustments and that will help you. And yeah, I guess that's it. What else can I say? Alright.